You think your city's corrupt? Like, really corrupt? Well, buckle up because the story of Christine and Walter Collins will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about justice, authority, and how badly things can go when the people in power care more about appearances than actual truth. This isn't just a missing persons case, it's a full-blown, real-life horror story that plays out like a twisted crime thriller. Only it really happened. In 1928 Los Angeles, a city glittering with movie stars and gangsters, behind all the flashing lights and glamour was a system so broken that it literally put an innocent woman in a psych ward just to avoid embarrassment. Let that sink in. So let's go back. Christine Collins was a single mother living in the working-class neighborhood of Lincoln Heights. She wasn't rich, she wasn't famous, she was just doing her best to raise her 9-year-old son, Walter. She worked long hours as a telephone operator and was known for being polite, responsible, and fiercely devoted to her son. People said she was the kind of neighbor who'd bring in your laundry if it started to rain. You know, one of those genuinely good people. So when Walter went missing on March 10, 1928, after leaving the house to go see a movie, her entire world fell apart, and the city's would too, but not for the reasons you'd expect. Christine did exactly what any parent would do. She called the police, she put up flyers, she talked to newspapers, and she begged anyone who would listen to help her find her son. At first, the LAPD took the case seriously, but let's be real, the reputation at the time was in shambles. The department was notorious for being in bed with bootleggers, protecting the mob, and looking the other way on violent crimes. Public trust was at an all-time low, and they were desperate to prove they could solve a big case and win back the city. Christine's case became their chance to make headlines for the right reasons. But the longer Walter was missing, the more they panicked, and that's when everything started to go sideways. 5 months after Walter vanished, the LAPD announced a miracle. A boy found in DeKalb, Illinois, claimed he was Walter Collins. Cue the press conferences, the flashing bulbs, the headlines that read, "Lost Boy Found." It was exactly the kind of PR boost the department had been craving. They paid to bring the boy back to Los Angeles by train, set up a dramatic reunion at the station, and even invited photographers. They wanted to turn this moment into a big, heroic headline. But when Christine showed up to meet the boy, she froze. The child standing in front of her wasn't Walter. He didn't look like him. He didn't sound like him. And the moment she said, "That's not my boy," everything began to spiral. Now, you'd think the police would listen, or at least double-check the facts. Maybe verify fingerprints, compare dental records, something. But nope. They didn't want to hear it. They were so obsessed with being right that they told Christine she was just confused or emotional. They accused her of being unstable. They pressured her to try the boy out, like he was a pair of shoes. And when she continued to say no, the situation got even darker. But imagine that for a second. Your son is gone. They hand you a stranger, and when you refuse to pretend it's all okay, they label you the problem. It's gaslighting on a horrifying level. So under pressure and probably feeling like she had no other choice, Christine took the boy home. For 3 weeks, she tried to live with this child, hoping maybe, somehow, she was wrong. But everything about him was off. He was shorter, his shoe size didn't match, he didn't recognize his teachers, neighbors, or even his favorite meals. And worst of all, he didn't act like Walter. After consulting doctors, friends, and her own gut instinct, Christine went back to the LAPD and said firmly, "This is not my boy." This time, she brought receipts. She had dental records proving it wasn't him. So what did the LAPD do? They had her committed. Yup. They used a little-known power at the time called Code 12, which allowed police to throw someone into a psychiatric ward without a hearing. Christine was locked away in Los Angeles County General Hospital's psych ward for speaking the truth. They called her delusional and unfit to care for a child. In reality, they just didn't want the embarrassment of admitting they were wrong. It wasn't about justice anymore. It was about control. Christine Collins, a woman already suffering unimaginable pain, was now being punished for refusing to go along with a lie. And that's where most stories would end. But not this one. Because just when you thought it couldn't get worse, a massive twist hit the city like a thunderclap. While Christine was locked up, the boy pretending to be Walter cracked under pressure. He finally confessed. He wasn't Walter Collins at all. His real name was Arthur Hutchins, and he was a runaway from Iowa. When asked why he lied, he told reporters he wanted to come to California and maybe meet movie stars. That was it. No deep plot, just a lonely kid who saw a chance and took it. The LAPD was humiliated. Christine was finally released and vindicated, but the damage was already done. And as if the story needed more darkness, a few months later, the case took one last horrifying turn. About 50 miles east of LA, in a place called Wineville, police were investigating a completely unrelated case when they discovered a child's graveyard on a chicken ranch. The suspect? Gordon Northcott, a sick, twisted man who had been kidnapping, torturing, and killing young boys with the help of his teenage nephew, Sanford Clark. This became known as the Wineville Chicken Coop Murders, one of the most gruesome serial killer cases in California history. Authorities believed that Walter Collins may have been one of Northcott's victims, but they could never prove it definitively. There was no DNA, no clear remains, just heartbreak. Gordon Northcott was eventually tried, convicted, and executed by hanging. His nephew, Sanford Clark, testified against him and went on to live a quiet, reformed life. But Christine never got justice. She never got closure. She never found out what really happened to her son. She did everything right and still lost everything. But Christine wasn't done fighting. She sued the LAPD for what they did to her. She won in court. A judge ordered Captain J.J. Jones, the cop who had her committed, to pay her $10,000. That was a lot of money back then. But you guessed it, he never paid her. Not a dime. The city never made it right. And even after all of this, Christine never gave up hope. She spent the rest of her life searching for Walter. Every lead, every possible sighting, she followed it, until the day she died. She believed he might still be out there somewhere. This wasn't just a tragedy, it was a total failure of every system meant to protect people. The cops lied, the media went along with it, the hospitals became tools of control. Christine Collins stood alone against all of it, and somehow, she never broke. Today, we look back on this story as a warning, a reminder that when power goes unchecked, even the innocent can be destroyed. The 2008 movie Changeling brought the story back into the spotlight, but what happened to Christine and Walter Collins is something we should never forget, because at the heart of all this horror is one simple truth: a mother knew her child, and the system told her she was crazy for saying so.